Well, hello there.
Welcome to Talking Junk.
I'm your host, Jason Melendez.
Live now every week on Fridays.
Talking Junk.
A multitude of professionals in different aspects, different walks of life.
You have to come on and talk junk like a normal person.
Welcome to Talking Junk, the podcast that comes to you live every Friday night from Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Periscope, which coincidentally has just turned over to Twitter. So all my graphics are outdated by a name. How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing all right. Had a dentist appointment earlier. That was a lot of fun, of course, as I'm sure everybody who goes to the dentist knows. So that was great.
That's new. That must be an update from StreamYard. You see that?
Yes, it is. They definitely changed
All right.
it. We know if you're talking, and I'm glad.
All right. Well, I'm doing all right. I'm a little excited.
All right, real quick, Jay. That was too sunshine, actually. But how are you doing, Jay?
Oh, I'm doing okay. A little bit better now that I know I have a great guest on tonight, Mr. Kevin Roth. Right. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Phenomenal.
A
little tired, actually.
Well, I appreciate being on. I like your show, so I'm pleased to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you hear a little bit of an echo going on?
Yeah.
You can hear. I don't know.
It happens all the time.
I don't know what it is. For some reason, this app doesn't like that I participate in this podcast. For some reason, it's always giving me problems no matter where I am, no matter what device I'm using. It's always like, I'm going to mess with how he sounds or how he's hearing people. So I'll try and mute myself.
It's the haters, Colin. It's the haters.
I guess so, but you know what? That haterade is delicious. It gives me energy. So, but thank you for coming on, Kevin.
Well, you're welcome. Good to be here.
So, Kevin, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right. Well, I am a musician and also what they call, I guess, a life coach. I started out playing the dulcimer, which is this instrument, when I was 13, and I got into the music business when I was 16. I got my first record deal when I was 16 on Folkway Records, believe it or not.
Folkway Records?
Folkways? Yeah, so they're part of the Smithsonian Institute now. It was a folk music label, and I basically had a folk music and singer-songwriter career, and then I got into doing children's music kind of by fluke and ended up on PBS TV, singing for Shining Time Station, Thomas the Tank Engine, and my goal when I was really younger was just to be rich and famous because I thought that's where it was at, So what happened is I kind of got a little famous and I got kind of rich, and that hung around for a little while until I lost all kinds of money in the stock market and the real estate market crashes, and that's just life. I was a successful guy, but I wasn't fulfilled. I was always looking for something, and I didn't really know what it was. And
money can't buy happiness.
Money
can buy happiness, but not fulfillment. They can't fill that void.
And in 2015, I, out of the blue, on a routine dermatology appointment, was told that there was a little speck on my nose that didn't look good, and they basically, to make a long story short, found out that I had stage 3 melanoma. There's only 4 stages, so melanoma cancer, and there's no cure for it. And they removed it, and they did a scan, a CAT scan and an MRI, and to see if the cancer had spread anywhere, and it hadn't, mysteriously enough. But they said that there was a 70% chance of it coming back, and then within 2 or 3 years, I'd be dead because there's no cure for it.
Oh my God!
Well, I was given a death sentence, and I never saw it coming. And that's how my journey switched my music and my what I do for a life and a living completely away from the ego-driven, recording artist on tour thing. Because what happens is when you get a death sentence, life gets really, really real. So I had to ask myself, if I only have a few years to live, what do I care about? And there were only three things. And one was that at the time I was living in Kansas City, Missouri. And I thought, if I'm going to die, and I'm not going to die in Kansas, I'm going to go.
You don't want to be in Kansas anymore.
Neither did Dorothy. Neither did Dorothy. I mean, the way where I lived was pretty nice, and the people were very friendly, Midwest folks. But I used to live here in San Diego, and I thought, I'm going to go back to San Diego, and I'm going to live my bohemian lifestyle. And that was the first thing, is to keep just making music, but not for making records or getting my music on the charts, but it was really for the love of it. Okay. The second thing was I wanted to spend as much time as I could with my dog, Bosco, who was a little miniature dachshund, which everybody loves. And the third thing was that
a wiener dog,
a hot dog wiener dog, and really, really sweet. And the third thing was basically, like I say, go back to California. But I didn't have a lot of money to move to San Diego. But I knew also that I had to follow my gut. And I began to think to myself, I've had all these oncologists tell me that I'm probably going to be dead in a couple of years, but my gut tells me that I'm going to be fine. And I tend to be kind of clairvoyant in a lot of ways.
You always got to go with your gut feeling. Now, when did you get this diagnosis that they told you only had 2 years to live?
About 2015-ish.
So you beat the odds already.
Oh, way beat the odds. Way beat the odds. But I mean, it scared the living shit out of me. I mean, I got to be honest with you, and everything.
I could just imagine.
Yeah, the things that I got real clear, because I'll tell you, and your folks that are listening, one of the major causes of illness is stress and inflammation. So I was about 35 pounds heavier than you're seeing me today. And I was always stressed out because no matter what I accomplished, okay, so now what's next? Because I'm like a driven kind of guy, which worked for me in the sense that over a span of my career, I have 50 record albums. I was pretty prolific, and I had a fairly successful career.
See, I love it. Do you see what happens with the age difference? In your generation, they call it driven. My generation, they call it ADHD and stuffed you with medicine.
Yeah. Well, the Dulcimer's tuned in ADD, so I always say I have a ADD problem. That's how it's tuned. But I went to California, and I said that I'm going to live the dream. And I created an alternate reality for myself. I cut out everybody who caused me stress. I settled my credit card debt with credit card companies and said, this is all I got, and this is all you're getting, and I'm going to be dead in 2 years, so take it or leave it. And they took it, and I looked for an apartment here. I found one at the time for $1,000, a one-bedroom, which is like not even possible. You can't even get a studio here for that. So everything I wanted and I envisioned happened. And it was like stepping into
So you manifested it. You manifested your reality.
Yes. And I was sitting here and I started to write a new album for me. Really, it was just for my own enjoyment. And it was called The Deviant Dulcimerist, and it was a real fun record. And I got it into sort of the loop of possible Grammys. And I thought I would maybe go back into the music business. But a friend of mine said, you just survived a major earth-shattering event. I mean, you were given a death sentence. You crawled out of that and went from surviving to thriving. You should teach people what you did, because there's a lot of people hurting. And it never dawned on me, I had to sit and think about it. It resonated with me. I thought, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, but I had no idea what I'd done. I had to really sit and think, well, what did I do, besides panic for a year? Because I was waiting 365 days for this thing to return, which is a really long time to wait for any kind of results for anything. And then I started to think about it, and I thought, well, you do this thing on the Dulcimer, which I call Dulcimer Meditation, which is where I kind of just noodle on the Dulcimer really pleasantly without any particular purpose. And I tune into the inner voice, that sort of, you can call it spirit or consciousness, whatever. And I hear sort of what I should be doing, and I follow it. And then I live my life in what I call mindful awareness. So if I'm meeting somebody or I'm involved with something and it does not feel good, I don't stay there. I absolutely end it. And I'm aware of how I feel. I'm aware of how to find balance in life. So if I'm mentally kind of, tipsy-turvy that day, I know, and I teach to my clients this balance thing. So balance is emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual. So, and most of what happens in our lives is all about the mind. The monkey mind, it's 95%. It's how we perceive this illusion, this world. Mm-hmm. So I just walk. And I started to piece together, well, when I'm feeling a little nuts, I walk. I play Dulcimer meditation to myself. I stay focused on what I love to do. Accumulating stuff, including money, was no longer that important to me. In fact, minimalism became like really kind of hip to me. I really liked it. And just
why would you be wasting your time in the material world when you feel like you don't have much time anyway?
Well, yeah, by the time I got to California, I began to think I was going to be out of the black darkness. But I put together this game plan, and I went on Facebook on some Dulcimer sites, and I said, hey, I'm going to be doing some personal coaching, like life coaching, using the Dulcimer. If you feel stressed or you feel stuck in life, or, you kind of want to do something, but you don't know what it is, or you've been married and you've forgotten your dream because you've had to raise a family, or you're in debt, or you're overweight, and you want to not fix your life, but you want a more successful, happy life. I can kind of show you what I did that worked. And if you're interested, let me know. And I have no idea whether anyone would step up to the plate, because I went on Facebook suddenly as a life coach and a new thought leader, and nobody wanted to hear it. They all said, well, when are you making a new record? When are you going on tour? Because they knew me as a recording artist. And I talked about my death sentence, which I thought was a big deal, because it was cancer.
Well, it is a big deal. You only had 2 years to live, and you well surpassed that. We're in 2021, almost 2022, and you got that diagnosis in 2015.
Yeah,
so people should be wanting to hear your story.
Yeah, that's what I thought, and I thought it was an interesting story. But everybody knows someone who has had cancer, so it's nothing unique. And that's when it dawned on me that the joyful kind of work I could do would not be about me. It could be about you. It could be about people who felt stuck, who wanted to feel differently, who wanted to change their lives. And I had practical steps that if you followed them, I thought that they would work because they worked for me.
How many steps?
Well, I got clients, and they all changed their lives really quickly. Well, the steps that I teach is, one, you have to know what matters in your life. 2, you have to know why it matters. And 3, you have to have a game plan that you're willing to execute. So this comes from really finding out what your purpose is. So as an example, you guys could be doing a million things. You wanted to put together a podcast, right? So you took whatever you took, and as much time and all this kind of stuff, and that wonderful artwork, the one you sent me, which is really cool.
Thank you very much. I work hard on those.
And you're making it happen. So you showed up. So I find that I can show people that once they identify what works, because I have an expression, if you replace what doesn't work in your life with what does work, you never go back to what doesn't work, right? Like I wouldn't move back to Kansas. I can't imagine myself moving back to Kansas. I can visit it. I mean, it's pleasant.
It's almost like that saying, only a crazy man would do the same thing twice and keep failing.
Yeah, I mean, Kansas is a great barbecue.
I know it goes differently than that, but I can't.
Yeah, Kansas is great.
What was that, Tyler?
It does have some good barbecue.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, I didn't live out in Western Kansas. I lived in Kansas City, Missouri, and it was only for a year and a half. But the other saying that I teach people is if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, which comes from Wayne Dyer. So what was interesting is I discovered this whole mindful awareness, kind of like my own form of meditation, because I don't have any patience to meditate, like close your eyes and sit for 10 minutes. It's not who I am.
I have that same issue.
Yeah, but I discovered this for myself, and I just worked it out. And then I found out that a lot of people knew about this and were actually doing this and teaching this. So I teach everybody from my experience. There is something that I do teach, which is very simple. In fact, if your listeners go to my website, kevinroth.org, and you send me an email, because we don't have the landing page up just yet, but you can book like a free 30-minute call, and I'll teach you a breathing exercises, which will take your stress level from a 10 down to a 4 within like less than a minute. And we'll talk to you a little bit about Dulcimer Meditation and maybe guide you somewhere, or talk to you if you want some personal coaching. And that's all free. But it's about people finding out their purpose in life, you know, and what they really love, and creating a life that they love. That's really the whole thing in a nutshell.
That sounds really awesome. I like how you're trying to, despite the fact that it was spurned by something that you thought would have ended your life by now, it ended up just being a catalyst for something that's giving you a passion for something that's allowing other people to help and figure out what they're doing or what they need to do in life and how to actually go about that. Because everybody generally wonders that and thinks it, but nobody really knows any types of steps. And that's not to say that there are specific steps only to be taken, but there are steps people take, like yourself, that allow you to get to that point, and you sharing them with other people is something that I think more people could do, but they don't do because they don't realize the value it is in having that perspective of how to get to somewhere without it having to be the same steps that are presented to us in society. I went through this and then I realized these several different things and allowed me to get there. Maybe this will work for you, maybe it won't, but it'll help educate you on that idea of how to get somewhere so that way you can figure it out, you know? So I love that you're doing that, and especially with the addition of music. I'm not entirely familiar with the instrument that you have there, but it seems to be something like maybe a guitar or a sitar or a mix of both, or
It's called a mountain dulcimer. I came up with this particular design. It's called the Wink. I sell these on my website, but you can get mountain dulcimers really anywhere. And it's usually played in a traditional folk style, almost like bluegrass. But I'll play a little bit of, I don't know whether you can see me or not, but I'll play a little bit
I'll tell you
of what I'm doing with dulcimer. So, you know, if you're driving, don't drive and listen to this because it's very relaxing. But Dulcimer Meditation is where you just
don't put me to sleep.
No, I'll try not to. So you just think of what would feel good, what changes you want, and don't overthink things. And then you just kind of close your eyes and listen. And the cool thing about the dulcimer is you don't even have to have any musical talent, because you could just play, one string, and it sounds really beautiful. It doesn't have all the sharps and flats of a guitar or a ukulele or a piano. It's mostly a mode.
Dulcimer will make me look good then.
Yeah. You could become a dulcimer star yourself. Yes, you can.
All right.
And so that's what I do. I get up in the morning, I make a really good cup of coffee, and I sit and I just do Dulcimer Meditation, and I let what comes.
What kind of coffee is that?
Oh, we have a place out here called Dark Horse Coffee. There's a lot in San Diego. There's a lot of breweries and coffee places. They all make their own coffee, and that's my favorite. Sounds
like the comic book company went out of business and opened a coffee company.
Yeah. It's good coffee. You don't need any sugar or cream in it. It's just kind of there. So that's a prerequisite. I need really good coffee.
I hear you.
Yeah, so I just start the day doing that, and then things will come up. It's like this morning, out of the blue, I was just doing the Dulcimer Meditation. What it came to me is I should go hiking this weekend in a place called Idaho, which is up in the mountains here in California. I hadn't even thought about it. But that's your inner voice guiding you. And I know
telling you what you need.
Yes. And if you follow it, you'll get where you want to go. So I'm looking forward to going hiking there this weekend and seeing what unfolds. Life is really interesting. I get into, people think that life is this earth. And as I was telling you guys before, I was listening to an earlier podcast of yours with a medium who was contacting people from.
Excuse me. The episode you were telling me that you were listening to, he actually makes sure the medium is an actual medium and not somebody posing as a medium. He's not a medium himself, but he has him and the foundation that I believe he started when his daughter passed. They certify mediums.
Yes, because he went through years of trying to debunk it to the point that he couldn't, which led him to the point of being so knowledgeable that he now does a set of accreditation for mediums. So he's very well versed in it, but he's not himself a medium, which is kind of funny because you don't really hear a whole lot of that, but very interesting fellow with a great story.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And so, life isn't what we think it is. There's much more to it. Even quantum physics tells you that we're just kind of energy, and we kind of exist and we don't exist. So when you put that together with something like a death sentence or something that's life-changing, it could be someone who was very close to you died or something, it makes you re-evaluate your life. Even COVID did that for many, many people, who lost their jobs or lost. They're all questioning, do I want to go back to that job? It was all about the money. I don't think so. I want to do something new. I want to do something different. A lot of my clients have come to me because they want to do things like be a potter and make a living at it, but they don't think that they can do it. And what I do is I guide them into how to make that a possibility and a reality. And that's the beauty of it. And then using the dulcimer is an added gift. So I look at this stuff and I say, well, I guess it was no mistake that I got into the dulcimer at 13. And here's where the whole death sentence thing. I was sitting at a stoplight the other day and I was thinking, why did I make it? Past 70% chance of dying, and I beat the odds. And the question came up and the answer came up along with it, which is to do what you're doing. To make people aware that they've got this inner consciousness, this inner dream, this desire that they can learn to harness. They don't need to feel broke. They don't need to stay overweight and unhealthy. They don't need to stay in a relationship that isn't working for them. They can change things, but you have to be ready to change. You have to say, I want this. And I gotta leave.
You gotta be the master of your own fate.
Yeah, and people say to me all the time, "Yeah, but change is really hard." And the truth is that staying where you are, if you're unhappy, is harder. So,
A lot of people are afraid of change, and they get comfortable in the positioning that they're in. So
yes, they really do. It's true. Um,
it's
so
hard
that's
to
what
break
I do.
habit.
Yes,
What
that's
was
what I
that,
do.
Tyler?
People are great at compensating, and we end up compensating for so long that it becomes the new normal that we don't really realize there's something wrong, and that's what's preventing us because that's just the new normal.
Yeah, and so that's what I've been doing. And right around the time COVID hit, I started to make an online course for people who couldn't work with me one-to-one on Zoom or here. And I did a basic course of it called Creating a Life You Love of Abundance and stuff. And it's on teachable.com. So it's kevinroth.teachable.com. So that people have access to this stuff. And I have wonderful clients. I have wonderful people that find me. I don't advertise a lot. People just sort of find me, and it's amazing to me in a way that I can now see all the stuff I went through, what it was for. Where at the time I was just really frightened. I went down a huge spiritual rabbit hole trying to figure out what the meaning of life was.
I could only imagine. Knowing that you're gonna kind of essentially knowing your expiration date will throw you in a hurdle.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then once I got here and I lived the life I wanted to live, and I didn't die, I wasn't going to go back to the old Kevin. Why bother, right? So
Yeah.
I thought, well, can I keep doing this? And if you have enough sort of faith in consciousness or God or nature, whatever it is, and what you're doing feels right, keep doing it. Keep doing it, and it unfolds.
Essentially, you came full circle around, and you're telling people now to follow their gut feeling, like you did in the beginning.
Yeah, follow your gut. Know what matters to you, but there are also tools to get through everything. So if you're emotionally upset, you can look at it in a mental sort of way, with your mind, and do a sort of an analytical thing that I teach, which makes clarity come. So you're clear onto why what was said or done to you is affecting you, not just, well, that hurt. You know why. And one of the big things I teach is self-love and giving
That's a
yourself,
big thing.
yeah, giving yourself a break. I mean, I was hard on myself. And I discovered when I was given that death sentence that I was my own best friend. I mean, I really didn't know. I mean, I found an empathy for myself and others that I never thought about before. So if you're bothered mentally, emotionally, or physically, there's different ways of balancing. I call it riding the surfboard. And life is like a guitar. It goes out of tune. You can tune a guitar in the morning, by the afternoon, that thing's out of tune. So all you need to
That
do is
sounds so much better than life is like a box of chocolates.
yeah. Well, but so you can like tweak your life throughout the day and have this mindful awareness technique that I teach and say, this person at work is bothering me. I need to take a deep breath and I need to say, what is this about? And then I don't need to hold on to this because it's probably not about me anyway. And that way you adjust
I
the
may
back.
need some coaching in that. I may need some coaching with that.
Well, I'm here for you, buddy.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate that. I'm a little bit of a hothead.
Well, we all have our stuff. But when you discover self-love and you discover that kind of anger doesn't serve you really well, and I'm not talking that, everything's peace, love, and happiness and woo-woo, because I'm a realist. But I was given a death sentence. I lived through it. I lived past it. And I found what to do to create a life, come hell or high water, that I was living, and nobody was going to tell me not to do it. Not money, I mean, everybody said, don't go to California. You can barely make it in Kansas. What are you going to do in California? And I said, I don't care. So it
Well, I
worked for
wish
me.
somebody would have told me that when I came to Florida. Nobody
Oh,
told me
I used to live in
it's
Florida.
New York prices with 1970 wages. So
Yeah. Where in Florida do you live?
I live in Sanford, about 30 minutes from Orlando.
Okay. Well, I used to live in Hollywood, Florida, near Fort Lauderdale.
Mm. Yeah, it's a
So
little more south than I am.
yeah. But so that's what I do, and it's an interesting life. I get to help people in interesting ways, and I see their lives change, and I'm just really astounded by it, because it's really them that change it. I just steer them, and I say, well, why don't you look at this about your life, and where does this come from? One of the techniques I use, which is really interesting, is I have everybody write a letter to their inner child in forgiveness. And
have you ever read some of those letters?
No, I don't read the ones that they write, but when they come back to me during the next session, they're always in tears, men and women, because there's a lot of stuff that's happened to us. We've all gotten dumped on our heads at one point, and we hold on to it.
Some of us at birth, and we can still see the effects.
Yeah, and you can learn to let that go to a certain degree. But the relief that people have, the relief on my clients' faces, which is why I like doing the Zoom things, because I can see, I can see faces, and I can kind of read into people, kind of not clairvoyantly, but I can see what's going on. They really make a shift, and I'm just like, that's better than a standing ovation or something like that to me, because I teach what I live. I walk my talk, because if I don't, I'm going to go right back into stress and misery, and I'm not going back to the cancer life or anything like that. So I made.
Why go backwards, and you're moving forward just fine?
Yes. So that's my story that I'm sticking to.
And we're glad that you stuck to that story. We're glad you're here. We're glad you beat it. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't be here to spread your message. Now, before we came on, I told you we had another podcast called The Break Room, where you can showcase your talents.
Yes.
Would you like to come on and drop some of your coaching gems on there? Have some people tune in, maybe call in.
Oh, sure. We'll do a little mix show of music and coaching. Sure. Yeah. And if some of your listeners are looking for change or feeling stressed, they want to, if they've resonated with something that we've talked about on the show, and they want to just send me an email, I'm happy to talk with them for a little bit and show them the breathing technique. In fact, it's on the Teachable course that you can take. But this is free, and you can set up a thing, and I'll teach you about that and guide you one way or another, give you some ideas to go with. And then if they want to work with me,
they can find your email on the website.
Yeah, it's Kevin Roth, ROTH, like Roth IRA. Kevin Roth. It's org. And they'll find my website, and then there's a place where you can email me, which is just kevinroth.org@gmail and .com. And we'll be putting up something where they can click, and there's a video of me doing what I would show them when they call. But that'll be up in another week or two. Probably by our next show, that'll be all up in lights and action.
Well, we are definitely. What was that, Tyler?
I said awesome. You gotta excuse me somewhat. I did have dental work done earlier today, so I'm actually feeling a little sore again. So I'm kind of like.
No worries. I try to give you your time because of the audio malfunctioning we're having again with your side of the stream. But we want to thank you, Kevin, for coming on. We enjoyed your time, and we can't wait to have you back on.
Well,
it's been a pleasure, Kevin. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on, and I'm a fan of you guys, so I'm going to keep on listening.
Thank you. We actually really do appreciate each and every one of our fans.
Absolutely. It means a lot to know that there's people out there that enjoy the content we make, whether it's just talking junk or it's break room or both, whatever it is. We truly appreciate that. So thank you, Kevin.
Yes, we do.
You're welcome.
We each collectively work hard on these streams we do every week. We do 2 a week. We're trying to work on possibly a third, but we're all busy.
We've been
So it's
working on that
hard.
for a while, but you know what? Maybe it'll come around before the end of the year. We'll see what's up.
Hey, it
Yeah.
happens. Sometimes things take off slow. Sometimes things take off fast. Look at us. We are going on our 2nd year for Talking Junk, and we just made our 1st year this week on the break room. So we're starting to go in the right direction. Hopefully, we can continue.
Right. That's
Very
right.
good.
All the best podcasts took a while to come around, usually, unless they were
Oh,
known
yeah.
celebrity, and I consider that cheating. So all the real podcasts, it took a little while for people to hear about it. So we're just in there. We're still fresh. We're still figuring a couple things out, but you know what? We know who we are, and we're thankful to have guests like you come on and help us figure that out even more and
Yes,
share the stories we got.
As long as we can keep getting great guests like you on, Kevin, we're going to keep soaring in the right direction. Thank you again for coming on. We appreciate everything. Your time is valuable to us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me, and I'll see you down the road.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'll definitely send you an email with all the information for the break room.
Okay. I'm just tuned up.
Junkers, we love you guys. Tune in tomorrow night. We're talking about human ego. Is yours too big? Let's talk about it.
Welcome to Talking